Hello everybody. This video will be the next video in my series of breeding shrimp for profit. This video is about where you should get your shrimp and why. And lastly, we'll talk about how many shrimp you should get to start your new shrimp colony. I've had many questions about how many shrimp you should get to start a colony, and thought this video would be a good time to answer that question. Also keep in mind that while this is titled and is part of my breeding shrimp for profit series of videos, the same holds true whether you're breeding for profit or just keeping your shrimp yourself as a shrimp keeper. Where to get your shrimp? The first thing you need to know is that when you're getting shrimp, yes, you are buying those particular animals, but that is not what you're paying for. What you're paying for, and the most important part of purchasing the best shrimp, is the shrimp's genetic background. This is why you see such big price differences in shrimp. Good shrimp breeders have sourced their shrimp from good quality, healthy stock, then have spent years perfecting their shrimp lines. For me personally, I have had every single one of my lines for over 3 years, some 5 years. In 5 years' time, I have invested countless hours culling and selecting only the best shrimp to breed. Every one of my lines has multiple tanks, electricity over years to run lights and filters, so I know what it takes to breed good shrimp, and it's a significant expense, patience, and hours upon hours of culling. So the money and time investment is very significant. So take all this into consideration when you're looking to get the best shrimp. The best homebred shrimp are going to be pretty expensive, at least when compared to most of the shrimp that are available for sale. So remember, there are lots of people out there that can throw some shrimp in a tank and make hundreds in no time, but good homebred shrimp have so much more time and investment in them to make those genetics the best they possibly can. So as a shrimp breeder, I can say it is best to look at getting top quality shrimp as an investment into the breeder's genetics. By getting shrimp from someone who is a good established breeder, you are getting a huge head start. You're getting all the work, time, and effort that they have put into that shrimp line to make it the best they could. And when you get shrimp like this, your starting point is what they have spent years to get to. When you get lower quality shrimp, you'll have to spend years, time, and money just to get to that same point. For example, when someone buys my shrimp, they're getting the 3 to 5 years of investment I have put into the line as a starting point. So what I have spent all this time and money on to get to, this is the starting point for folks who get my shrimp. If you plan on raising your shrimp in your tap water, then the best bet is to find a local breeder, as their shrimp are already used to your local water conditions. Now that is not always easy, as there are really not that many good established serious shrimp breeders out there. The chances of finding the best shrimp locally are slim to none, but if you can find a good high quality shrimp locally, then by all means go that route. Shrimp bred in the same water conditions can hit the ground running and will have next to no time to get acclimated to your water conditions. With that being said, neocaridina shrimp can adapt to a huge range of different water parameters, so that is not a huge consideration to take into account, but it's certainly something to consider. I would, however, not settle for lesser shrimp just because they are local. There are lots of good shrimp breeders online, and if you're in the US, I would like to invite you to check out my shrimp at markshellyaquatics.com. I've shared all my methods and show how I raise my shrimp throughout the years, so you can see what my shrimp are and how much time and effort I've put into them here on this channel, Mark Shelley Aquatics. Where to get shrimp and where not to get shrimp and why. These days, 95% or probably well above that of shrimp that are available for sale are imported shrimp. If you're looking for the best shrimp with the best genetics, you definitely do not want shrimp that have been imported for many reasons. First and foremost, usually the cheapest shrimp out there are imported shrimp that have not been through any kind of quarantine period or treated with medications. This is important to keep in mind when you realize that most imported shrimp have at least one or more, likely multiple shrimp nasties, and that is because of how they are raised. Imported shrimp are raised in large outside ponds and are exposed to any number of parasites and diseases. Then, after they are harvested, they are transported all over the globe through any number of transshippers, then on to wholesalers, and finally on to retailers. Many shrimp have gone from their pond to any number of international importers and exporters. There they could go through at least a couple of wholesalers, and then after that on to a retailer. This means they have gone through at least 3 or more than likely 5+ different types of water parameters. Every time they are put through different water parameters, it causes a great deal of stress. And they come with any of the shrimp nasties from the outside pond. Those are going to be magnified because a stressed shrimp is a weakened shrimp. And those weakened shrimp are more susceptible to being affected by those shrimp nasties. With all that being said, there are some responsible importers that quarantine and treat their shrimp. But these shrimp are not cheap because of the time and effort to quarantine and the expense of medicating the shrimp. And even with healthy imported shrimp, you still do not want those if you are looking for the best shrimp that will breed true. Again, we go back to talking about genetics. And that is what you're paying for when you buy shrimp from a good breeder. And that is what I will explain next. Back to imported shrimp being raised in huge outside disease-riddled ponds. Not only are there good chances of these shrimp being diseased and unhealthy, but the manner they are raised and harvested makes them genetically inferior. Even if the shrimp look awesome and are of great quality, they most likely possess less than ideal genetics. They are raised in ponds with thousands upon thousands of shrimp, which means there are no way these shrimp come from pure good genetics. See, when they harvest all these thousands of shrimp, they come out in all kinds of different grades. So you have thousands of shrimp in a pond and they're all mixed grades. So when you're buying even high grade imported shrimp, they're not coming from a colony that are almost all high grade quality shrimp like they would from a home breeder. The high grade imports are just the best of the best out of a bunch of mixed grades. So while the shrimp itself may look amazing, the shrimp it produces are very likely to be less than stellar because of their mixed grade genetics. I see this all the time in shrimp groups on Facebook. They have absolutely stunning shrimp that they purchased as high grades. And when they start breeding out, the babies produced are nothing more than maybe mid grades or even low grades. If you're breeding shrimp for profit to sell, or even just want good high quality shrimp for your colony as a shrimp keeper, this just is no good, and frankly very frustrating. I know this all too well. Years ago, in the beginning of my shrimp keeping journey, I just had to have black rose shrimp. I tried and tried to find some good homebred stock, but none were available back then. So I bought some imports, the one and only time I did this. The shrimp I received were absolutely stunningly gorgeous black shrimp, who were, as you guessed it, very, very sick. I spent quite a bit of money on a couple of different kinds of antibiotics. Some were infected with fungus, and those I had to destroy, as I didn't want any of that shrimp nasty in any of my tanks. In the end, I was able to get maybe half of them to live. They started breeding out, and even though the shrimp I started out were complete stunners, the babies they produced were all over the place. Many very low quality shrimp were produced, and even with less than super high standards, less than 20% of the shrimp babies were keepers. I called these guys for a couple years with very little improvement. Eventually, I gave up, and all I ended up with was a coal tank. I spent all the money on the shrimp, money on meds, and then my biggest expense was the years of keeping and time spent calling, which in the end all ended up being for nothing. So remember, my starting shrimp were amazing, but the shrimp that came from those amazing shrimp were pretty much complete garbage. That all goes back to the shrimp simply being the best out of the pond with thousands and thousands of shrimp, which is what you can expect when getting imports. I learned the hard way. So remember, When wanting to buy shrimp, it is important to understand that you are paying a premium for the shrimp's genetics. A home breeder keeps the entire colony as clean as they possibly can. You're not just getting the best of the best from a mixed bag of different grades out of tens of thousands of shrimp like you do with imports. The shrimp are going directly from the breeder's water to your water, so they're not exposed to multiple different kinds of water parameters on their journey to being imported across the globe, meaning much less stress and much healthier shrimp. How many shrimp to start? The simple answer to how many shrimp you should get to start a colony is how many you can afford or how much you are willing to spend. Good shrimp can be expensive, so money is definitely an issue. But the reason I say as many as you can afford the reason I say to get as many as you can afford is simple. More shrimp make more shrimp quicker than less shrimp make more shrimp. With that being said, every single one of my shrimp lines I started with 10 to 15 shrimp. Back when I was buying my shrimp, money was a big issue. So that's all I could afford at the time. So I would suggest to get at least 10. The only warning I have is if you're relatively new to shrimp and don't have a system down that you know works, I wouldn't go crazy getting tons of shrimp all at once. I still suggest getting at least 10 as a minimum, but if you don't know if you can raise shrimp in your water conditions or have a set way of breeding shrimp, I would take it slow. Like I said, still start with at least 10, but if you're new and have troubles and need to make changes, then dropping lots of money on shrimp that die is going to suck really bad and get you very discouraged. So just take it easy at first if you're new. But if you're fully confident in your ability to keep and breed shrimp, then get as many as you are comfortable spending. Because as I said before, more shrimp make more shrimp quicker than less shrimp. If you're in the US, I invite you to check out my website, markshellyaquatics.com, for all my homebred shrimp lines. And if you enjoyed this video and like to see more videos on how to breed and keep shrimp, I'd like to invite you to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.